Okay, so I'm just going to, because I know some of you had asked how I'm going about doing this assignment, and I think different folks will definitely do it different ways. And I'm pretty excited about some of the stuff I'm seeing on the Miro board, but this was just my kind of thinking when I came up with this. So, real quickly, and I'll try not to make it too long and boring, but I'm gonna do a cop out and model this very simple Burger King soda cup. Hopefully your students, I know actually your students are doing things more complicated. And I guess I'm going to try it with this sort of very simple type of oblique projection right here. I like this one because it's got the 45-degree angle back and it's got the full scale when you go back, so you don't have to do any calculations. This is a good one too, but then when you sort of bring things back, you have to do some calculations, divide things by half. Not super hard, but for this purposes of this little video, I'm just going to do a simple one. Again, you can change around the angles. It's up to you depending on what works best for what you're trying to show. So I have my cup. I didn't import it into Rhino because I just measured the different diameters, kind of quick and dirty. Again, hopefully your students are being way more precise than what I'm going to show you in this little video. But let's go right here to shaded view. So I'm going to do my 4 view. So you can see a lot going on here. Kind of started to model it out over here. See them. This is what they look like over here. Ooh, I have everything locked. You can see right here, right? Like I've already started, and you've got to get your students to do this as well. I've already started to create a bunch of layers. Some of these aren't that helpful in the beginning, but as you keep modeling, you're going to keep on creating layers. It's going to be so helpful. Right, so if you look over someone's shoulder and everything is on layer 01 or on the default layer, you might want to warn that student that that could cause loads of problems and slowdowns later on. So I started modeling it here, and then I even thought I would model the interior curves as well, so that's over here too. I immediately put those on a different layer. However, I did group them in little couples. So at each profile level, the interior and the exterior curve are grouped together. That's helpful because when I shut them off, I can still manipulate the things that are in groups even if they are switched off. And I think that that's helpful because it creates a lot less confusion in terms of, what you're looking at. So there's the one I just copied, and if I turn the interior layer on again, the hidden thing was copied over. 2 things to keep in mind. Group command is not the same as join. It's not creating polysurfaces or polylines. So make sure your students understand the difference between group and join. The other thing to remember is to just be careful with group, because if you switch off, you could just be manipulating things that have been switched off for many, many hours, and then you switch that layer on again and realize because loads of stuff was in a group, it's all been deleted or deformed in ways that you didn't want. So group can be helpful, but can be double-edged sword. So just tell your students about that as well. I kind of started doing profiles in another dimension here. Again, your students will probably be doing profile in 2 dimension. This I kind of just use as 2 helper lines. I mean, it's basically a cylinder. That's getting smaller, but there were some interesting bits at the bottom, like, it turns into a polygon shape as opposed to a circle, more near the top. And so I wanted to sort of, this area versus the top area, it's a little bit different in shape. So things like that will make the model way more interesting, as opposed to just having it be straight sections. So there's that. And I'm over here. Okay, so now what I'm going to start to do is, best thing is I'm going to take this thing that I've created. I'm going to delete this. This is what I started doing over here. Okay, and in fact, I'm going to delete all of that. Sorry. Okay, so I've got my interior curves here. I'm gonna just move this up. Sorry, I'm being a little bit nitpicky. Okay. Now that I have that, I'm gonna start to build my oblique drawing in the top view. However, before I can do that, I decided back here that I was gonna do this one with the 45-degree angle, and it's full scale. I know that my cup is 7 inches tall because I measured it with a handy ruler. So I'm gonna go ahead into my construction line layer. I'm gonna make a helping construction line. I'm gonna start it right over here. I'm gonna have it be 7 inches tall because that's how tall my cup is. Hit enter, and then I'm gonna have it go up at a degree of 45. So I do my less than 45. Okay, and just to be sure, now I have the beginning, good, 7 inches. And now all I'm gonna do is to take the curves and start moving them up. So that's the top one. I'm gonna move that all the way over here. Okay, and I got the next one. How far should I move that one over? Well, what is this? That's behind, sorry. At the next one, how far should I move that one over? Well, I can just measure it. I'll go over here to front view, I have my ortho and my grid snaps on. Let's measure how far away this is. 6.5. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna move that. 6.5 less than. That's the next one. I'm going to keep doing that with this one here. Well, how high is that one? How far should I move it? This is why it would have been good if I had more of a procedure when I was setting up these profile curves rather than doing it like a haphazard mess like I have. Maybe a good warning for your students, but anyway, that's 5.77, not ideal, but whatever. Moving that over here. 5.77, less than 45. Right. How high is this one? Again, this is very disorganized. I should have had these profiles be at much more regular intervals. This is at 5.21, not happy about that, but anyway, move that. There you go. Okay, and so now I'm just gonna do baking show style. I'm gonna just move over here where the whole thing is kind of done. Okay, so I still have all my bits here. It's just kind of starting to turn into an oblique drawing. Now, there's an important step here before I can start drawing on this, like in 2D, where you'll see this thing that I've made over here in perspective view. Oh, it's over there. An important step that I forgot, which has been deleted, is shit. I don't know where that went. But okay, that's okay. What's gonna happen here is after you make this, if you look over here, this is what I was just working on, these bits that I was moving over, part that I just started. You can see it's all floating around in space. I mean, that's not a big deal because you're looking at it over here in top view and you can't really tell. However, when you go to trim and split and treat it like a drawing, it's not gonna work because they're not on plane with each other. So I just channel my inner Luke and I take all of these and I do project to C-plane. I would probably actually copy them first. I love doing my copy paste. I don't ever like destroying anything. And then I would maybe select all, project to C-plane. Now I can just go ahead and delete the input object. Yes. And now you can see everything has been flattened. Right, that's an important step before you start drawing. Obviously, you can't do trims and cuts or anything like that because Rhino's not going to be able to find any intersections when everything is floating around in space like it is here. Right, so I project to the plane. That's an important step. I also, at some stage, now I kind of can go over here. It's all projected onto the same plane. And now I can just treat it like a 2D drawing. An important step here, though, I would say, is to ungroup everything. because now if things are still grouped and you start trimming and splitting, remember the warning I gave before, all kinds of things are going to get split and trimmed that you don't want. So I would ungroup it at that point. Come over here, this is the ungrouped one. Right, you can see things are separated now. Now I'm using the split command to try and get rid of things, or not get rid of things, to put things on different layers over here. Put things on different layers so that making the drawing will become easier later on. Okay, and I have my hidden lines coming up over here. Right, so you can even see just between these two, things are starting to become more clear in the one on the left. Right? Things are starting to become more clarified. Right? And then you can, in the last stages, when you've kind of manipulated this and have things switched on and off as you like, you can, at the end, maybe on Tuesday, start showing people how you would take things into Illustrator and start manipulating them there. Okay? Keeping in mind that all the layers are maintained here. You know, and you can play around with how thick and thin you want everything to be, using the line weight rules that I assigned. Oops, that became right. But I mean, these are things again that you're quite familiar with. I also have, if you didn't want to do the 45-degree angle, you could just sort of have it be oblique, or create the drawing by having it go straight up. It's the same process. Right, you build it up like this, manipulate it that way. I can show you this one too. Right, building it up, and then coming over here, projecting it to the C-plane, organizing, etc. Okay, so this is like a really quick and dirty tutorial, not the greatest, but this was just my process in doing it. I feel like, you know, from what I'm seeing on the Miro board, different folks are doing different things. Some people are kind of seeing it this way. You can introduce this to them on Tuesday. If they've started a different process to get to their drawing, that's fine as well. But I think the things to remember are, one, taking an object from 3 dimensions, describing it using planar curves in 2 dimensions, manipulating those 2-dimensional curves in 3D space to then get a 3D representation of this object, and then bringing that back into a drawing and showing the most interesting bits, all the while being super organized with your layers, being super clean, understanding what the different curves are, and you know where they're coming from and how you'll use them later. Also, major commands are going to be trim, split, copy, polyline, things like that, going to be super important. And if you want, like, it's totally fine to play around and show your students the surface commands, right? So you could actually, you know, just start taking things and showing students how you know Rhino can create surfaces in other ways. That's totally fine along the route, because we're absolutely going to be doing that. But for this exercise, we're mainly interested in the curves that generate those surfaces and how we can manipulate that. Okay, I'm just going to end it there. Thank you for listening.